How might historians judge today, Friday the 12th of June, when assessing the long arc of capitalism, or indeed humanity's quest to venture among the stars? The initial public offering of Elon Musk's SpaceX is intended to be a key chapter in both those stories. It is astronomical in ambition. SpaceX is not one company, but several. It has a space exploration pillar. It has a connectivity pillar, all those Starlink satellites supercharging communication around the globe. And it has an AI pillar. That's XAI and Grok, the chatbot, and the like, which the bankers involved modestly assert warrants a total addressable market, or TAM, of around $28 trillion. To be clear, the flotation is oversubscribed, and the valuation is based on the assertion that SpaceX will grow its AI revenues from $3.2 billion to $322 billion, a nice round multiple there, in under 4 years. In a moment, we'll question whether the business case actually makes any sense at all with Simon Jack. But first, Hideo Resi might be Elon Musk's best friend. A venture capitalist himself, he met Mr. Musk at the University of Pennsylvania more than 30 years ago.
He's not had a normal life in any by any stretch of the imagination. So, for example, in college, one day I went into his room and it literally looked like he had been up for days. So I asked, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "It's broken." And I asked, "What's broken?" And he had been playing a video game for roughly 3 days. And he was not able to win it because at the very end of the game, there was some sort of glitch. And he kept repeating it, trying to win. He's very determined. He's very focused on being number one, winning. His will is like nothing I've ever seen. And his mind is like nothing I've ever seen. So you really have a one-of-one person in the world today, like the modern Michelangelo. And so if you read these things, be like Elon Musk or do things like Elon Musk, it's just not plausible for most of humanity.
When you say his mind is unlike anything you've ever seen, what do you mean?
He doesn't take notes. He plans all these complex physics and engineering feats in his head. He doesn't use software so he just has a very unusual mind. Like he is probably a prodigy, the likes of which we'll not see for maybe another few thousand years in humanity.
If you fast forward a decade or so from that first meeting at the University of Pennsylvania, it's a dark and starry night, I think, on the Long Island Highway. The two of you are sat in a car together. What did he say?
Well, we were just deciding what to do after he had taken PayPal public and I had also exited my second billion-dollar company. And so we were just batting things around. I think I joked space, but clearly he and I had some interest in space. So we ended up spending the rest of the car ride debating if space was actually a viable business to pursue or not. Very early on in the conversation, we realized that Mars was the destination. And then we just started asking, like, how much can it possibly cost? It's metal and fuel that goes into a rocket. And yet, these were launching for hundreds of millions of dollars. So by the time we got to New York City, we had decided we would set out, fly around the world. We launched a company called Life to Mars. We bought 2 ICBMs, or we're in the process of buying 2 decommissioned Russian ICBMs to act as our launch vehicles.
That's intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yes, they do bring large amounts of payload to space. And initially, the Russians were charging us $7 million per ICBM, which we could afford and send something to Mars. But through the negotiation process, they tripled the price, and we just couldn't afford it. So the Life to Mars mission was in question, and that's when Elon said, "I'm going to start a rocket company," and the genesis of SpaceX.
One of the defining qualities of the great entrepreneurs, never mind the great engineers, is being relentless even in the face of constant rejection. And sometimes that rejection comes from those very close to you. And you, as a close friend of Mr. Musk, it's interesting to see you smiling about it now. You tried to make an intervention, didn't you?
I did. But, I want to bring up, I led the intervention, but I assure you that there was a large number of people trying to do the intervention, and I just ended up being the uh, lightning rod to which they all came because we are best friends. So they all came and said, "Hey, Adeo, you got to talk to Elon." I'm like, "Okay." And so we put together with many of the top scientists and thinkers in space in Los Angeles in the Georgian Hotel and basically told him that launching a rocket company was a terrible idea. It was sort of like an Alcoholic Anonymous type intervention where he sat in a chair and everyone was in a circle sharing their horror stories of building rockets. He left that meeting and looked me in the eye and said, "I'm going to do it anyway." And I knew at that moment that he was going to do it.
You know, a lot of people listening to you will be not just fascinated, but profoundly inspired by what you're saying, the ambition of it. At the same time, for a lot of people in the UK, they mostly know Mr. Musk through his social media interventions. For instance, this week, he's very outspoken about the unconscionable, appalling events in Belfast. Does a little part of you, as a friend of his, sometimes think, Elon, just stick to the rockets, the cars and the satellites. Don't bother with social media, because if you did that, you'd be an even more successful businessman and engineer.
I've done the social media intervention as well.
How did that go?
Well, I think it's safe to say it didn't go very well.
What did you say to him? What did you say to him?
I was actually there with one of the top historians in the world and some other luminaries the night that he had a whole debacle around SpaceX stock, which I'll spare everyone the details of. And we kind of all universally were pleading with him to take a break, to take a hiatus from social media. And, clearly I'm not the first one to have done that, but for him, that's just part of who he is. He really loves and enjoys social. He wants to share his views, whether they're popular or not. He does not filter himself at all on social. So if you want to know what he thinks, you don't have to guess. You can just read his feed and you will know.
Well, that was Adeo Ressi, one of Elon Musk's oldest friends. We've heard about this IPO then through the lens of Musk's psychology. Last Saturday on this programme, we looked at this IPO in the broader lens of shareholder capitalism. Let's look at the business case now with our business editor, Simon Jack. Simon, morning.
Morning.
The bankers getting their fees have every incentive to talk this business up. What's your sense? Is this valuation at all reasonable?
I think you have to make some heroic assumptions to justify this valuation. Most people, if looked at this, and many moons ago, I was an equity analyst, and I can get to about sort of half the valuation they're asking for, because as you said in your introduction, this isn't really about rockets and space exploration. It's not even mainly about that. It's actually about artificial intelligence. And as you say, the market they're trying to address, they think they can work in, they say is $28.5 trillion. 26.5 of that is the AI bit. And so it's a real test of whether they can dominate in that area, because XAI, their AI bit, hasn't demonstrated any technical or commercial advantage over some powerful rivals like Anthropic and OpenAI. So as I say, some heroic assumptions, and it will be an acid test, I think, of whether the frenzy around AI is justified, because it's the first of a series of blockbuster companies, OpenAI and Anthropic, coming down the road. And it's going to be a question of, can you make the returns? Can you actually make the profits that would justify the vast sums that people have spent on it and people are valuing it at? And that, I think, is a very, but listen, writing off Elon Musk in the past has been a very unprofitable thing to do. But as I say, there's some heroic assumptions.
And brief, Simon, to be clear, it's called SpaceX. The rockets, as you say, are a small part of the current company. It's the connectivity bit that's chucking off the free cash flow. The AI is the big bet. But as things stand, SpaceX is not making money, is it?
No, it lost $5 billion last year. So to be asked to pay $1.75 trillion for a company that lost $5 billion last year seems weird. And don't forget that even if retail investors have got a chance to buy into this, and the public, he's put 30% of the shares available for retail investors. It's not going to be, and bear in mind, he will have total control over this. Now, usually, if you're going to buy something over which you have no control, you'd want a discount. But in Elon Musk world, you're asked to pay a premium for the questionable privilege of owning something you've got no control over.
Simon Jack, our business editor, thank you.